Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. Heatwave number 4 is up and running, at least in parts of the UK, because not everywhere, of course, experienced heat waves 1, 2 and 3. But will the hot weather stay with us as we head through the next 2 weeks? Well, let's take a look at how things may develop. This is the picture at 18 GMT on Tuesday, the 12th of August. High pressure is centred to the east, and with some very, very warm air being funnelled up across the UK as a result. Mostly dry, a few showers around, but if you're hoping to see the Perseid meteors tonight, I think conditions will be quite good. Unfortunately, there is a bright moon which will reduce visibility, at least reduce the visibility of the meteors. Okay, so as I run the sequence, let's see what happens. Well, pressure begins to fall and showers develop. There could be some heavy ones around. It's probably going to be turning a little bit fresh for a time too. But then it's high pressure which builds back and becomes the dominant feature of the weather. So by Sunday, we've got high pressure centred just to the north. There are some showers being pushing up into the southwest, possibly, if this is correct, but too far away to be confident about the details. Going through to the conclusion, what we see is that high pressure remains dominant. There is this area of low pressure, as I say, to the south, which could bring some showery conditions at times into southern counties. So it is worth keeping an eye on how the details develop as the time approaches. But Wednesday the 20th of August, it's mostly settled. Here's the jet stream and upper air temperature sequence. The UK inside the red circle, you can barely see it there because of the orange shading, which is indicating a very warm air aloft. Now, it's interesting because more or less throughout the week, the yellows and oranges stay over the UK, the jet stream there to the north, and even at the end here, we've got some very warm air. In fact, it's covering most of Europe. So it looks like temperatures are going to be remaining well above the average through the first week. There will be day-to-day variations, of course. Let's have a look at those. Now, this is the picture on Wednesday, the 13th of August. The core of the heat is actually in central and northern parts of England. I think it's partly due to cloudy conditions in the south, a chance of some thundery showers breaking out in the southeast. Also a stronger breeze there. But if you see here, this is the UKV model and it's showing 36 degrees in the Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire area on 1 or 2 grid points. And if I zoom in like this, we can actually see for 1 or 2 grid points at the full resolution, which are going for 37 degrees Celsius. I don't think this is going to be right. I think we're probably going to peak at somewhere like 33 or 34. Nonetheless, there's just an outside chance that we could see some exceptionally high values on Wednesday. On to Thursday, temperatures have dipped a little bit and there are some showers in places, but it's all relative. 30 degrees, 31 degrees still being forecast there in central and eastern counties of England. Even in the north, you can see 29 locally in Scotland and Northern Ireland into the low 20s as well. So it's still a very warm or hot picture across most areas. Friday, temperatures have actually ticked up a little bit in England and Wales. We're back into the low 30s quite widely. Widespread sunny periods. A chance there of some patchy rain in the northern half of Scotland, and that's pegging back temperatures. But all in all, it's a warm picture in the north, rather warm at least, and a hot one in the south. Saturday, some variations once more. We're still seeing 30 degrees, although the highest temperatures have now pushed further west, so into southwestern England and parts of southern Wales. Even in the north though, 21, 22, 23, 24, so quite warm there too. There are a few showers dotted around, cloud amounts are varying, but all in all, lots of fine weather. And looking at Sunday and Monday, using the data from the GFS model instead, it's fine weather, 27 degrees in the south, maybe undershooting a little bit here I would suspect, in 1 or 2 locations, 28, 29, maybe still touching 30, and it's warm in northern parts of the United Kingdom as well, for low to mid-20s in Scotland and Northern Ireland. So lots of fine weather through the first week. I've mentioned though it could well be breezy at times. This is just to illustrate that, and the strongest winds on this chart are actually in the south, the southwest, some orange shading there. It's forecast for Saturday afternoon, but I think on several days it could well be quite breezy, particularly in southern and central counties. Nonetheless, with all that fine and hot weather around, it may be quite a welcome relief for one or two people. The temperature trend for London from the Mogreps G ensemble, you can see at the start there around 30 degrees. It then dips a little bit as that area of low pressure moves in and somewhat cooler air returns. It then trends upwards. Towards the end there, the signal's not particularly clear, maybe going down a little bit to the mid to upper 20s. Often these values on Mogreps G ensemble are a little bit below the maximums because they are showing the averages for the time period rather than the max or the min, which some of the other model charts that I use are showing. Could be a little bit of rain as well. The potential is there with those showers. They will, needless to say, be hit or miss. Some localities could see large amounts of rain potentially, whilst others stay completely dry. A few spikes showing up on the Mogreps G rainfall graph for London around the 13th or the 14th, but don't take that literally. It's just indicating the possibility of some showery rain. In more general terms, these are 5-day aggregate charts from the ECM and GFS models. Very, very low totals in most of England and Wales, higher in Scotland, double figures there, up to about 20 or 30 millimetres in places through the period. So that's quite consistent between the two charts. One thing though to note is that the ECM actually shows significant amounts of rain in parts of the southeast, up to about 21 millimetres. Very localised, not to be taken literally, but it does highlight the potential for some hefty showers, which, as I've said, could bring significant amounts of rain to a few places, even in the south. Moving forwards to the 10-day projections, totals haven't increased a great deal on either of these, although once more it's worth noting that on the ECM chart on the left there are some differences. In the southwest you can see that is one area where totals have ticked up quite a bit, around 30 to 35 millimetres of rain in the southwest. Most of that, of course, would be falling through the 5 to 10-day part of the forecast period, since the 5-day chart showed very low amounts there. So don't take that as a given by any means. It's just giving one possible scenario, which the GFS chart on the right doesn't agree with. So in more general terms, how do the deterministic models compare with each other as we head towards the end of the first week? This is the GFS view on Tuesday the 19th. The high pressure is centred to the north. Areas of low pressure to the south, hence that possibility of some showery rain. The Canadian model, areas of low pressure there as well, with high pressure to the north. The German icon, the high pressure probably being a little bit stronger and pushing further southwards. The European ECM, there's low pressure here to the southwest, to the south, high pressure to the north. The artificial intelligence version of the model, quite similar. And finally, the UK Met Office global, high pressure there, also centred to the north. I think taking them all together, the message here is that there's going to be lots of very warm or even potentially hot weather still to be found in the UK. There's a chance though of some showers in places, especially in southern and central parts, maybe the southwest, the west more widely, and they could be heavy at times. But as I've already said, they will be hit and miss. So a lot of places staying predominantly dry, hence the very low rain totals which were being shown on those aggregate charts a few moments ago. How do things develop as we head through week 2? Well, as ever, it's just about the trends and the probabilities. I say that every time because it's very, very important to emphasise. Here's the 16-day GEFS plot for London. Upper air temperatures across the top. The thick purple line there is the ensemble mean, and it's well above the 30-year average. A thick black line to begin with. It's a big, big anomaly. It is dipping though for more cooler runs, or more runs bringing somewhat cooler air back through the second week. You can see the trend is downwards. That said, it's still an above average picture even towards the end of the second week. Some rain is possible, a number of spikes showing up there, but it's going to be showery, I would think, in nature. So you may get some rain or you may not. That's how it is. Here's a view from the ECM ensemble model. So it's essentially showing the same thing as the previous chart. I'm just using it for comparison. The trend is a similar one. Upper air temperatures are dipping. They are becoming closer to the average, a little bit closer actually at the end on this plot than on the GEFS one. Likewise, the chance of rain increases towards the end of the second week. The grey numbers there are reducing and they show the percentage chance of it staying completely dry at the given time steps. The 2 metre temperature data tables for London from the GEFS fitting in with the general picture. Very warm or hot early on, something of a downwards trend as we head through the week. But this colour here indicates 21 to 25. So for more runs through the second half of the week, which are showing above average temperatures than there are below. The nights may be becoming a little bit cooler as well, but uncomfortable early on, I would think. For many people, 16s to 20s is the dominant shading for the first few days. The amount of yellow increases there through the second half of the second week. Those runs showing overnight lows of between 11 to 15. Up to Manchester, a very similar picture. As has often been the case with some of the anomalies are a little bit smaller than they were on the London chart. Likewise, the risk of rain a little bit higher, and of course that is generally the picture. It's when I say this, some of the anomalies have been a bit lower than they often have been on the London chart. That's not always the case because we are talking about anomalies here, not necessarily just the absolute values. The absolute values will, on average, be lower than they are on the London chart, but not necessarily the anomalies, which are just showing the deviation from the average. The 2 metre temperature data tables for Manchester, following a similar profile to London. There's something of a dip there, a chance of very warm or even hot conditions. In the northern part of the UK is reducing. A lot of runs going into the 16 to 20 degree bucket as we reach the middle part of the period. And the overnight lows are also reducing. Lots of yellow there in the comms and a little bit of light green 6 to 10 degrees. Up to Glasgow, the story remains the same, or at least very similar. Above average but dipping through the second week. And there are more rain spikes there than on the London and Manchester charts. So a greater chance of wet conditions at times. The 2 metre temperature data tables for Glasgow also just trending downwards gradually through the days. The nights also becoming cooler. Lots of light green in those columns developing. So in more general terms, the rainfall profile for the second week using the ECM ensemble charts. Each one of these shows the percentage chance of 5 millimetres or more of rain falling on a given day, so the first 3 days of the second week. Increasing a little bit, up to about 20 to 30% there on the second and third charts. There isn't actually a very, very well-defined pattern. Generally, the chance is higher in the north and the west. Moving forwards to the next 3 days, and things are now a little clearer because the green shading is starting to show up. Those are runs going for, that's showing about 40 to 50% chance of this amount of rain falling, and the green shading is mostly in western Scotland, northwestern England and Wales, Northern Ireland too. The usual suspects, of course. So the mean surface level pressure data table for York also could give some pointers. Does it? Well, no strong trend here. About 20% of green on some days. Those are runs which are low pressure dominated. The yellows, though, are remaining dominant, 1,000 to 11 to 1,025 millibars. So as I point out, there will be a few runs in there which are going for below average pressure, but on the whole, the majority of them are likely to be above the average. And also, if you notice later on there, this is quite interesting, some orange starts to reappear. Those are strongly dominated by high pressure. So, interesting developments taking place. Now, that was from the GEFS like this, but this one's a snapshot chart for Friday, the 22nd of August. We've got high pressure building up from the Azores, the UK just here, and the orange shading there is once more used to indicate warm air aloft. So we still, most of the runs are keeping warm air over southern and central parts of the UK. It's cooler as you head northwards, of course. But the European ensemble is a little bit different on this occasion. Always worth trying to see the differences between the ensemble models at this range to get some guidance on how things may shape up. High pressure is centred further southwest. The warm or very warm air is bulging up there more over central parts of Europe, and maybe low pressure having more of a say in matters over the United Kingdom. So cooler air could be returning on a lot of the individual runs in the model which are used to generate this particular chart. So there are some differences there between the GEFS and ECM ensembles as we go through the second week, indicating that things could be beginning to change. But let me try and summarise all that. Week 1, it's a hot start, but showers develop in places. Some of them could well be heavy and thundery, but they will be hit and miss. Temperatures dip a little and it turns fresher, but it remains very warm or even hot. Values of 30 Celsius or above remain possible for much of the first week. It becomes mostly dry again as high pressure returns and those showers fade away. Week 2, very warm or hot early on. Temperatures dip but probably remain above the average, especially in the south. There is that chance of showery rain in the south early on with low pressure not far away. Very uncertain though. And the bigger picture though is for it to become more generally changeable later in the second week. But lots of uncertainty about just how likely that is to take place. That development may or may not happen. There is still time for the models to adjust to a more settled pattern through the second half of the second week. But at this stage, the signal is for things to finally begin to change. So at this point, I usually say, and there we have it, which I sort of did, but I just wanted to look at something else very, very briefly before finishing. This table shows the central England temperatures for summers. It's actually listing the hottest summers on record in the central England temperature zone, and at the moment the record is held by 1976, the legendary summer of 1976. But look at this, in the fourth place is 2025, and how is that generated? Well, I've plugged in the central England temperature value for the first 10 days of August, which hasn't been especially warm, so it gives us 16.7. But we've got plenty of hot weather on the way, and this is already lagging a couple of days. So if I now increase that to 17.8, we get the hottest summer on record in the central England temperature zone. 1976 is relegated to second place. You can see we've got 17.73 degrees here versus 17.7. So we need 17.8 for August 2025 to smash the 1976 record. And if we take it one step further, if we want to see a central England temperature summer average value of 18 degrees, this is what needs to happen in August. 18.6 will do the trick. So it's a possibility. It's a distinct possibility that the 1976 record could be broken. It's not a definite because there is that signal for more changeable and cooler conditions to begin returning through the final third of the month, but it's definitely on the cards that we could see the 1976 summer central England temperature record beaten this year. I think it's just also worth pointing out that more widely, my understanding is that the picture across the UK as a whole is that summer 2025 is quite likely or even very likely to be the hottest on record. The central England temperature area, of course, is just a relatively small part of the UK. It uses free reporting stations, free official reporting stations, which is how the Met Office calculates the values. Well, I hope that was of some interest. It's turning out to be, I think, a summer which will be remembered as an all-time classic. Now, I know many people don't like the hot weather, and they'll say, well, I don't consider it to be a classic, which is a fair enough point. I think the takeaway is that it's a classic because of those high temperatures. It's one which will keep people talking in the years to come, hence the title of it being one of the all-time classics, even if as an individual you may not like it. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful and enjoyed it. Then as ever, if you did, please consider hitting the like button below and subscribing to the channel if you've not done so already. In that way, you'll not be missing any of my future updates, and you'll be doing a lot to support the development of the Weather Outlook on YouTube. But of course, please also support the website by checking out how things are developing on a day-to-day basis by looking at TheWeatherOutlook.com. Thanks very much now. Bye.